Welcome to the Team Barca channel. This is the first ever episode. I'm very excited to get started. I've been wanting to do this for such a long time. It's finally happening. So I want to thank you for tuning in, watching, listening, wherever you are. You are extremely welcome. And now I would like to introduce today's topic. As you can see in the title, it's around center backs. We're going to talk about Garcia, the top target for Barca throughout the summer. We're going to be looking at his career. Although it's short, it's quite impressive. We're going to be looking at some of the statistics that really stands out when we look at Garcia. And of course, finally in the episode, we have to compare him to Jean-Claude Todibo, who went out on loan this season to Benfica. I'm going to be looking at how they match up, who might be the better pick for the future. They're both young, they're both talented, they have lots of potential, but they are quite different players. So that's the final thing we're going to be looking at. But first, let's get the show started by looking at the start of Eric Garcia's career, which of course started in La Masia. He started there in 2008. He played through the youth ranks. He wasn't a particular talented footballer at first. His physical appearance isn't that big. It really still isn't. He's 6 foot tall, 182 centimeters tall. But he's extremely clever on the ball, and that really is one of the things that stands out when you look at Eric Garcia. He makes great decisions. His decision making is spot on. His passing is very crisp. He's calm on the ball, and although he doesn't dribble too much, he's very good in both his short passing and long passing, and that makes a big difference when you play for Barca. He's often been compared to the likes of Gerard Piqué. There's been some historical similarities. Piqué also went to England to play. He went to United, obviously. When he came back, he really established himself as one of the leading figures at Barca in the back line. He's very good with both of his feet, actually. When I look at him play, he can play in a back three. He could play in the middle. He could play on the right side, which is obviously very, very good in the Barca system, that you are willing to adapt to different situations. And one of the things that really stands out to me just by looking at him is his defensive awareness. He's very, very clever in terms of making the right runs. He's not the fastest player, but if a right winger, for instance, or left winger makes a deep run, he's very quick to realize what's happening and he reacts. That's a major, major strong point for him. He is not reactive, he's proactive. So he sees the runs and he runs before the ball's kicked. And that is perfect for Barca. We have such a high line when we play, so we need the defenders not to react to a certain situation, but they really need to be proactive in their approach to how they defend. And I think that's one of the reasons why not just Koeman, but also Pep Guardiola, and for last night when Lucho brought him into the Spanish first team, he had his debut. Congratulations to him. He played extremely well because he's so aware of his surroundings. He's great on the ball, but off the ball, he's also very, very good at interpreting the field, the plays of the offensive players that he has to defend against. So I think that's a major strong point for him. We often see young center backs, if they're very physical, for instance, that they rush out, they make harsh tackles. We used to see that with Umtiti a lot when he came through. He did it excellently, which is why he was one of the best defenders in the world at the time. But still, you run a risk of going in too hard, getting a yellow or a red card. And that's also one of the points of Garcia. He doesn't really rush into tackles. If we look at the map here, we can see that his defensive actions, they're almost never sliding tackles. He intercepts the ball, which means that he reads the play, or he tackles the ball standing on his feet. And that, I think, is probably one of the most valuable things if he were to come to Barca, either in January, you can only cross your fingers, or if he's going to do it in next summer. I think we've seen throughout the last couple of years some of the speed lacking in the central defense, especially from PK, which forces him to make a lot more sliding tackles that he probably would like to do. And that puts us in positions, specifically on counterattacks, where we are extremely vulnerable. If a player gets past a defender who tries to go in for the sliding tackle, either it's probably going to be a rough tackle or he gets completely past him. And then it's maybe 2-on-1, 3-on-2, and so on. So I think that's one of the key points. It's his mental strength, Eric Garcia, it's his passing, and it's definitely the way he defends. That's probably the three biggest strongholds for him. And of course, being this is a Barca channel, he wants to come back. And that's a major positive for me. We want players to come to Barca that wants to be here. You don't have to speak Spanish. You don't have to know this city beforehand. But if you want to come to Barca, if you want to give your best, give 100%, not just in the games, but also in practice, it makes for the best possible environment to grow as a player, but also in the relationship with the fans, hopefully with the board, with the media, and so on. So I think Eric Garcia could be a top pick in terms of bringing in a young center back. Of course, there's a whole other side to this in terms of the financials. Everybody who's been following Barcelona for the last couple of years know we have a massive debt. Actually, we have the biggest debt of any club in the world, which to me at least is extremely irresponsible. We also have a massive salary budget, which we have to get under control. I actually think, even though I don't like the board that much, that they've done a pretty good job of reducing the wage bill under the circumstances. We also have to take the coronavirus into this. But I think Eric Garcia would probably come on wages that would be fair. Not that high. Obviously, he's still a young player. He's going to try to establish himself, maybe force PK out at the starting 11 or Lenglet. Araujo has done extremely well. I think from everything I've read about him in practice as well, he's really performing. He's a very different type of player. So I think the combination of those two, they might be young, but Garcia is an extremely smart player. Araujo is too, but he's much bigger. He's much more physical. He's a lot faster as well. So they could be an interesting partnership going into the future. And the last statistical point on Eric Garcia, that's his passing. If we look at the passing per 90 minutes, we can see that he has a lot of average passes, which doesn't tell you much in itself, but it does tell you a lot when you compare it to other talents in the same category. Also, his passes into the final third, that's very impressive, especially for such a long player. That's a good indicator as well that he isn't afraid to run with the ball. And running with the ball as a center back is quite important in the structure and the system Barca plays. Obviously, often when we meet other teams, they play narrow. They know we're not going to do a lot of crossing with the ball. So they play the lines very closely and at the same time narrow, which means that some of the center backs needs to push forward and break the defensive lines. I think Eric Garcia has shown at his short spell at Manchester City that he's able to do this. He still has the legs. He's only 19, turning 20 soon. And therefore, I think that if we could get him for a cut-free price in January, or if we could get him for free next summer, I think that would be a very important signing for the future. He might not hit the ground running at first. As I said, he's still young. He's not the biggest player. And sometimes you see that center backs with a more physical appearance has it easier adapting to a system because at least they can win headers on crosses, on corner kicks, on free kicks, and so on. But what really makes an excellent center back, in my opinion, is the ability to keep the ball, evade pressure, maybe do one or two dribbles, and then long balls and through balls. Those are some of the hardest things to do as a center back. and I think Eric Garcia will be able to do this in the near future at the very top level. Obviously, everything takes time. It takes time to adapt, but getting into the squad next season, hopefully have a few years next to a more experienced partner, will definitely help his development. And being included in the Spain squad is just a testament to what a great player he can become. Here, before I do the comparison between Jean-Claire Todibo, who just went out on a season-long loan to Benfica, I want to thank you for sticking around. If you're still with me, subscribe to the channel if you want to. That'll be extremely helpful to me and a way for me to see that what I'm doing makes sense. I'm going to be uploading as many videos pretty much as I can. There's so many different topics I want to cover. Also want to get better at making these videos, so hopefully in the future I'll be able to do that. But now let's get into the comparison between Eric Garcia and Todibo. So Todibo is a different kind of player to Garcia. He has much less experience. Of course, he went to Schalke last season, which was overall a positive experience for him. He had a few bad games, but he had a few very excellent games as well. We all remember the one game he had against Inter Milan for Barca, where he was probably the man of the match. He was great in that game. Physically, he is much faster than Eric Garcia. Dribbling-wise, he's also quite a lot better. And dribbling ability for a centre-back is actually a quite rare skill to have. And that's why I have mixed emotion in terms of sending him out on loan. I think what young players, I've played football my entire life myself, what young players need to do is get out, get experience, get used to playing week in and week out. That wasn't going to be possible for Garcia. We have a lot of other players in the squad like Ricky Puig, who really deserves to play every single game, but there are just other players that are more experienced that the managers seem to like more. So in that regard, I think what Todibo did in terms of going out on loan was the best for him. Might not be the best for the club. I mean, we could see a long-term injury to Longley next week or PK, which would be terrible, but it's definitely possible. Everything can happen. In football, it's a physical sport. But I think coming back from Benfica, I hope, let me put it that way, that Todibo can really showcase his ability in Portugal and return an even better player. I think a roster of center backs with Longley as the most experienced, with Araujo playing a lot this season, hopefully, with Eric Garcia and then Todibo, that's an extremely interesting core of players. They're all pretty young, they have different skill sets, but what's the common denominator of them all is that they're good on the ball, they're clever, they have pretty good physical attributes. Of course, they're different. Todibo is, for instance, fast, Longley is pretty physical, but that gives us options, and options is always what you want to have in football. But if I were to make a choice right now, I would definitely put my money on Eric Garcia. Not only does he know the club, he speaks the language, he's used to playing for Barcelona, and he really wants to be there. I'm sure Todibo wants to be there too, but being a La Masia graduate means more than just being able to speak the language. It means understanding the system from the ground up. Having played at all the different youth levels, I think gives him an edge. But if I'm being perfectly honest, I would like to keep both of them. That would definitely be the best option for the club. Alright guys, this was the first episode. I know it's not perfect, that's not what I'm aiming for. I'm aiming for being able to speak my mind, get out my ideas. I want to do a lot more videos like this, so if you like what you saw, what you heard, then please subscribe to the channel. You can ask me any question you want. I'm going to try to get back to all of you. I hope you have a great day and enjoy the Spanish guitar on the way out. See you.